Hi guys, Iron Cameraman here. It's only been a couple of days, and Boom has already dropped another batch of updates about the future of the series. We even got word that the Watchman of Doom is getting a redesign. Considering what kind of redesign the Duchess got, I'm almost scared to imagine how insane this one might look, especially since the current design of the Watchman already looks great. Fun fact, the current design was co-developed by Deer from Ohio. And while that's not officially confirmed, the fact that we're getting a redesign suggests that, during the creation of Part 1 of Episode 79, Boom might not have had the time to fully oversee the process, just to avoid dragging out the already long pauses between episodes, which means the new version of the character could end up looking completely different. Just think about the original Executor design by Strider versus the one Boom redid himself. The difference is massive. So how exactly will the Watchman of Doom look after the redesign? I'll tell you more about that in a bit. But first, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because if you don't, somewhere out there, the Iron Cameraman will cry. Please, don't give him a reason to be sad. Let's support my costume together. Anyway, here we go. Let's start with the big one, the release date for Part 2 of Episode 79. This time, Boom is predicting August, though he hasn't set a specific date. Can we trust that estimate again? His recent move seemed a bit spontaneous, especially considering he had just told Stake that the episode was coming in July. Right now, all we know is that the episode won't be too long, around 6 minutes, and there's still a lot of work left to do. Taking that into account, the most likely release is mid-August, or in the worst case, late August. As Boom mentioned earlier, the full version of Episode 79 will include bonus scenes at the end, and now we've got more details. First, these scenes are going to be important. Boom himself used all caps to emphasize that. Second, the Duchess will appear in them, and she'll get some development. This doesn't mean an upgrade, it means more character depth. Boom says many fans misunderstand the Duchess, even though there have already been hints in the series that she's more complex than she seems. We'll come back to that. Third, Boom says Episode 79 is setting things up for Episode 80. He uses the phrase builds up, a reference to the 3-act structure, where Act 1 sets up the so-called Chekhov's guns, plot points, characters, and events that will pay off later. Example: the conversation between G-Toilet and Juggernaut in Season 25. We learn that G-Man was, or still is, a father, that he and Juggernaut were longtime allies, and that Juggernaut is unsure about his loyalty to the Astros. All of that sets up future payoffs: Juggernaut betraying the Astros, G-Toilet reuniting with his child, activating a secret weapon, and so on. In Episode 79, the Chekhov's guns seem to be the Watchman of Doom, the Duchess, Titan Speakerman, and G-Toilet. The first two have already appeared in Part 1. The remaining ones, logically, should appear in Part 2. Boom already replied in bold "soon" when asked about when we'd see the Speakerman base. And considering his older comment about a powerful character returning in Episode 80, it makes sense to assume that this will be Titan Speakerman. That could mean the equipment and crew from the Cameraman base were teleported to the Speakerman base by the Polycephaly TV man, just like in Episode 66, when we got a teaser of an upgraded Titan. And the Cameraman base itself might already be doomed. Just like the TV men base, it could be wiped out by the mothership, which at this point is basically unstoppable. As for G-Toilet, he might appear in the bonus scenes of the full version of Episode 79, possibly in a conversation with the Duchess, like the one he had earlier with Juggernaut. That would fulfill another old teaser from Boom about certain details involving G-Toilet and the UFO that were supposed to be revealed in Episode 79. On the other hand, we might not need G-Toilet to appear directly. We could see a flashback or repeat of the Duchess's conversation with the UFO, like in Episode 76. Either way, we'll likely get some insight into why G-Man betrayed the Astros. Considering Boom's statement that Episode 79 is setting up Episode 80, plus hints about major reveals both in the full version and the next episode, it's reasonable to assume Episode 80 will be a direct continuation. And since we've already seen the Duchess and the Watchman of Doom, they'll likely still play a role. The real question is, what part will Titan Speakerman play in all this? It's quite possible that he'll try to free the TV man Titan from the chest parasite's control, but by return, Boom probably didn't mean just a teaser, like how the TV Titan briefly appeared in episode 66. It likely means a full comeback, with the character rejoining the storyline. If that's the case, a clash between the Duchess, the Watchman of Doom, and Titan Speakerman seems very likely, considering the Speakerman's resistance to TV men radiation and the damage the Watchman has already taken. The main fight could end up being between Speakerman and the Duchess. There's only one problem. Both the Duchess and the Watchman can easily leave the battlefield at any moment, one by teleportation, the other through hyperspeed jumps. That means either the Speakermen have created some counter-tech to stop those escape methods, maybe by working with the TV men and studying astrotech, or Titan Speakerman will have to act incredibly fast to rescue the TV man before the enemies vanish. Since he's the fastest Titan in the Alliance and can also use hyperspeed, this kind of scene is totally possible. But the outcome is still uncertain. From a story standpoint, it wouldn't be very interesting to have the Titan return so quickly to the Alliance, only to get sent off again for repairs and upgrades for another 10 episodes, like what was expected at the end of episode 77, before the Astro capture changed everything. Also intriguing is Boom's answer about episode 80. It'll be split into 2 or 3 parts and won't be too long, at least compared to episode 77. And according to Boom, something will happen that many fans have already predicted. Given an older reply, it's clear he's talking about the arrival of the PC men. They'll likely have green energy, and all their actions will be coordinated by the secret agent. That means the agent will start actively and openly opposing the Astros and supporting the Alliance. But the detective doesn't seem like he's ready to let go. He'll keep investigating and trying to expose the dark secrets of the secret agent, and there's no guarantee that removing Plunger Man was the darkest of them. Interestingly, both G-Man and the Duchess are expected to appear in the 80s episodes. Chances are they'll meet and fight. That would explain why someone as high-ranking as the Duchess came to Earth in person. Even the UFO was surprised by her arrival and showed her respect. That's why it's unlikely that the Duchess is G. Toilet's wife. The age and visual differences are too stark, and she's probably not his daughter either. Otherwise, she would have served in the Astro Army, as expected from the daughter of a former commander. But she clearly acts independently. All of this points to some other kind of connection. Maybe in the past, G-Man conquered worlds that were later handed over to the Duchess, or maybe he tried to overthrow the greater Astro leadership, including her. That could explain why she came down personally for revenge. Now, about what Boom meant when he said people misunderstand the Duchess and miss the subtle details about her. First off, she's the only literal Titan among the Astros that we know of. She has a core, a full body, arms and legs. As we saw in episode 74, only a few are given that privilege. One example is G. Toilet in the past. That means the Duchess isn't just some spoiled girl who came to Earth for fun. Nothing is random in Astro leadership. The strongest ones rule, and they get there through sweat and blood. Of course, as we saw with the UFO, power among the Astros isn't just about physical strength. Intelligence matters too. It was thanks to smart planning that the TV men's main base was wiped out and their Titan captured. But the Duchess showed an unprecedented level of brutality and power in episode 76. She literally crushed a skibidi's head with a laser, even shooting from her mouth. That basically makes her a purebred Astro. Extremely powerful. Her energy confirms it too. Unlike other Astros, her red glow is visible not just in her eyes, but in her lasers, her core, and other emissions. Her sadistic side isn't just hinted at with her constant smirks and that quartering scene with the operator. She personally came to Earth to punish G. Toilet. Considering that Astros live for thousands of years, her appearance, which looks like she's maybe 30, could be misleading. In reality, she might be hundreds or even thousands of years old, which makes her an extremely experienced strategist and fighter. She's even featured in the latest spoiler. In it, she's no longer just watching the Watchman of Doom from afar. She's on the battlefield, ready to act. And it's clearly not a reaction shot. There are no buildings behind her, so she definitely stepped into the fight. Maybe the Watchman of Doom has taken serious damage, and she decided it was time to get involved personally. She's seen taking off her protective glasses, which might mean the TV men's radiation sources were disabled. Boom once explained that red radiation goes through the cameraman's lenses, which means the Astros must have V2.0 glasses that solve this problem. Remember how the skibidi toilets once stole glasses from the Alliance? History might repeat itself, but this time, the Alliance steals from the Astros. And if she's removing the glasses, that might hint the TV emitters have been destroyed. But who destroyed them? Option 1. The 3 huge turrets mounted on the base's roof. They were firing directly at the chest parasite on the Watchman of Doom. But judging by the lack of damage, the parasite either redirected the energy into the core or had built-in shielding against lasers and energy spheres. That could also explain why even the anti-parasite cannon might not work. Maybe the only way to beat it is by using PC Men green energy tech. We also saw in Part 1 that the Strider Cam attacked the enemy, and later in the spoiler, it's seen behind the Duchess. So the question is, how did the Strider Cam survive the red radiation? In that scene, we see it flying off to the side. Maybe it maneuvered around the Watchman and ended up behind the Duchess, avoiding the radiation. That would also explain why it didn't react when the operator turned back toward the Watchman. The second possible reason for the destruction of the TV emitters, Speakerman reinforcements. Their army could have taken out the second Astro wave and shown up using hyperspeed tech. And maybe that's where a major character will die. The scientist Cameraman, Plungerman's friend. We saw him riding the Strider Cam, and it's totally possible that the Duchess destroyed it during the conflict escalation. And finally, the Watchman of Doom's importance is reinforced by his redesign. Boom showed the new design to Ebio and allowed him to share his impressions. According to him, it looks more powerful. But that doesn't mean the upgrade itself has changed. Otherwise, they'd have to rewrite the first part of episode 79 for the full version and the season. What would I personally change in the Watchman of Doom? First, the energy shield on his TV head and left arm. It doesn't match the Astro style at all. Second, the wrist energy cannon. Where did that single model even come from? Was it made just for the Watchman? And how is it any different from the version Juggernaut has? Third, the sword. He literally drags it behind him in his right hand. Why not install the energy shield and cannon on that arm too? It's weird that the sword isn't stored on his side or back. At the very least, they could have used levitation tech, something both the Alliance and skibidi toilets already use. That way, the sword wouldn't take up his hand and could float nearby. Given its massive size, it could even be used as a shield, letting him still shoot from his wrist cannons without being blocked by the energy shield. And lastly, why doesn't the TV Man Titan have a TV? Instead of a screen on his head, there's some kind of device that we got a closer look at in the spoiler. I have 3 guesses what it might do. First, it generates the energy shield. But then, what's it protecting? Second, it reverses speech, since we heard it without the usual reverse effect. Third, it remotely controls the TVs. Unlike the older shoulder-mounted models, which acted like independent battle units, as shown by the different emotions on their screens, the new ones might be synced to a single transmitter. Surprisingly, that's not even everything Boom said. This video is already pretty long, so if you want a part 2, make sure to like and subscribe. See you soon.